Tonight is primarily an opportunity for you to introduce yourselves. We know that there will not be any plans for us to see of the site at this time, but we understand that you will tell us about the backgrounds of your companies, the vision and execution of your past projects, which could be helpful in understanding your vision toward the 4-H site, your overall vision perhaps for the 4-H site, and your current thoughts regarding a timeline for development and eventually construction. While you are making your presentation, residents will be able to send their questions through the chat box directly to Todd Hoffman. When you have finished your presentation, Todd will read out the questions, clustering them as he may find appropriate. We would also like to end at 7 p.m. as we will immediately proceed to our regularly scheduled town council meeting. But let me close by welcoming you and your organizations to our town. Yes, we have our concerns that matter a great deal to us regarding this site, but we are also excited to have you here and look forward to a collaborative and cordial process of engagement, one that can lead to an excellent facility for the senior citizens who will be coming to live in our town, and also to a good outcome for all the rest of us who look forward to benefiting from this redevelopment. So with that, I would like to turn this over to the developers who have the opportunity to build anew in the town of Chevy Chase. Please feel free to introduce yourselves, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. It's quite a pleasure to meet everyone in the community, and I do have a presentation, so I will share my screen. So thank you everyone for coming together this evening to meet with us. It takes a lot of effort out of your schedule these days. Things are complicated. It's a difficult environment to take the time to meet with groups like ourselves, but we really do appreciate that. This, as you know, will be a process. It will require patience on everyone's part to go through the process. So we are aware of the effort that you will be putting into this, because we will be asking a lot of the community in participating with us through the process. First of all, I would like to introduce us as Galerie Living and Community 3. And the reason is because as Galerie Living, I've been in the senior living business since 1996. Community 3, and I'll let them speak for themselves in just a few minutes, but they've been a developer and produced very high-end products in the DC market for a long time. So we saw a huge value in making sure that we had a true partner and we had a solid partner when we would come to this market. So I'm very pleased to say that we are partnered with Community 3, and we've been working for some time looking for the perfect site for what we create in a community. This is just a little highlight, something that you can read later about what we do and what we about the two companies. I like to start out by giving everyone just an idea of the leadership team. I'm the CEO and founder of Galerie Living. Like I said, I've been doing this since 1996. Carrie Samuelson is our COO. She heads up operations. She runs the communities. And then Fergal Brady is our CFO. We've worked together for quite a long time. We've done several of the projects that you're going to see tonight. And so we've been a very solid team in that fact. So from the Community 3 side, Lynn Hackney and Grant Epstein have been great partners, and we've enjoyed the pleasure of working with them to kick off this project. And then over to the right, you'll see a list of corporate team members that are on our team. So you can see we have quite a robust team. And then I wanted to talk about some of the project partners that we've put together. And this has been led primarily by Community 3. But we've brought Soltez as a civil engineer into this, and they are on this call as well tonight. Lurch Early Brewer, a legal team that will represent us in the entitlement process. And then Torty Gallus as an architect in the process, as an architect who will be working with us to put together ultimately what you're most interested in. And that is what is the product. And we're very excited to get into that process. So we will begin that process tonight. And I know we won't be able to answer all your questions tonight, but in the process, this will be a good start to get to know some about what we've done in the past. I'm going to let Grant speak to the Community 3 team here for just a minute.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. And I want to say welcome to everyone. And I really wish this was in person because we could see each other's faces. And I think it would help us get to meet and greet better. But I know that this is the format that we have, so we're going to make the best of it. Our goal here tonight is, yes, one, to share the team and share a little bit about our companies, but also to start this process, which is going to be, unfortunately, a long process. It will take time to get through it, but we want to do it together. We are not a group that wants to say, here, this is what we're going to do, and you guys comment. We want to be collaborative. We've done this in the past on our projects, and we think that this is a very important site, not just now, but long into the future, and we want to do it right. So we are here as this first step, just to say hello, and for you to get to know us, and for us to start that process. Now, we've been doing projects in and around Washington for about 15 years. I am actually an architect as well, and started our company about 15 years ago to do projects that took a lot of design effort in responding to the constraints. And this project is just like those, although the constraints are very different. It is a large site. It is one that has a lot of economic and physical requirements. And we're going to work very hard over the next several years in order to make sure that we get a win-win for not only the community that is here, but also the new residents that will be here going forward and be a part of this community. Just again, I'm sure you can see our website, but these are some of the projects that we've done in and around this region. They range from very small ones to very big ones. Each of them is contextual and responds to the neighborhood that it's in. And that is one thing that we pride ourselves on and look forward to in every project that we do. We have several projects that we've done in Montgomery County, none in the town of Chevy Chase yet, but some that have gone through the county process, and with our partners that we have here that we've worked with in the past, we bring that experience to the table. So just wanted to say hello, and that's who we are.
Thank you, Grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we present our background and the history and some of the projects that we've worked on, which have been specifically senior housing, you're going to see why we're such a good team. And because we have the same philosophies, we have the same thought process about how to approach a project. And the one thing that is most important to understand, that when we're looking to create a project of this scale in a community, it is a custom project. So we're sitting there coming into this project, looking at the project from the perspective of the community, because it becomes an institution within the community. And that's why we pride ourselves on taking our time to go through the right process to make this work. We are owners and operators of the community. So we have a very vested interest in this process. Just a little background on our company. So in 1996, I started in the senior living business. And I want you to know that in 1996, when I started in the business, I pretty much went to I didn't know senior living when I started in the business. And what we did is we went out and we looked at what the rest of the world was doing. But what we realized around 2000, when we created a new brand, which was the Noble Village brand at the time, is, hey, there's a new way senior living should be done. And at that time, we started adding on new components to senior living, like cottages and bungalows and things like that. In that process, we were gaining the confidence of the financial institutions that, hey, we are the innovators of the industry. And because we're the innovators of the industry, you can back us and support us to do things that are not typical of what you have seen in senior living. So then around 2015 was another breakout year. We created the brand Village Park Senior Living. Village Park Senior Living, it became a campus style community, which really offered 3 different levels of independence, assisted living, and memory care without having a fee entry model. So that really is a suburban model that we've developed. And then in 2017, we stepped it up to more of a urban product type. So it's a Corso Atlanta project. You can see it online now. So you're going to see something, you're going to see as we go through this process, we're going to be developing out a community. And just because you see these communities on our website, it doesn't mean that it is necessarily what we're going to do exactly, but it will be some hybrid of all these things that we can put together. And these are great tools that we can use to create the right project for the community. So just a little background on how we do it. We are owners foremost, meaning it's my money. It's the money of our friends and family. We have institutional money. We also have the largest banks in the country backing us. We take a very strong interest in making sure that we're working with the community, because that is the success of the project. And we stand behind it. We are also the developers of the community. And the reason is because we want to make sure that we are communicating, that we are putting in place a product that works for the community, and we can be innovative with the project. Senior living is one of those things that will always innovate. It will always change, because the consumer and the needs of the consumer are going to continuously change. So it is very important that as a developer, we spend the effort, the money, the resources into making sure we build a product that can continuously be a product for the community at the highest level. Innovators, we also have a technology platform. Technology is a very important thing in today's environment for making sure that we're providing proactive care. We have some partnerships with Fortune 100 companies where we're doing very predictive analytics. So we are very innovative on the technology side as well. We are the management company. We have our team, so that when there are issues within a community or there are things that need to be addressed, the information is flowing directly to us, specifically myself a lot of times. So we're involved in this process from the beginning, and we stay involved with the project for many, many, many years. So just a little bit about our values and how we start this process. I'm going to speak to happiness, because it's one of the things that we put a lot of effort into when we're developing a project. And it's something that I want you to start thinking about as you start thinking about what would you want the senior living community to be. Because the one thing that we do in our communities is we create what's called unexpected happiness. Unexpected happiness happens when you create moments that people don't expect. And what I mean by that is it's putting forth the effort to put in place the things that, like, where you wouldn't expect coffee shops, where you wouldn't expect, the amenities that you don't currently see in a senior living. We can do those if we want to as a community. So we will talk about those things, and we'll throw a lot of ideas on the table through the process. It may be a year from now before you get to throw your idea on the table, but you'll get a chance to throw your ideas on the table, and we will absorb those, and we will go and we will look forward to incorporating those things. Excellence is something that we pride ourselves on. You're going to see, and when you see some of our projects, you go online and look at some of our projects, you know, hospitality is something that the hotel industry does very well. And it is something that we have worked very hard on to make sure that when you're coming into our community, you're going to receive the service level of service that you want. So, you know, the community, it could have valets, it may not have valets. But I'm just giving you some examples that excellence will be something that we will look at every detail. Innovation, I've already spoke to it about the technology once, but I just wanted to tell you that technology will be very important in the process. And it'll be something that we will talk to you about. And we'll, so that you understand that the senior living community you're going to get is going to be a cutting edge senior living community. It's going to be one that's going to be providing technology and innovation that no other senior living is going to be able to provide. And then dignity is something that is extremely important. And I always say, look, when I pull up to a restaurant, whether I'm going in to buy a hamburger or whether I'm going in to buy a steak, if the restaurant treats me with dignity, that means everything in the world to me. And sometimes it's the experience that I have paid for. So I just want you to know that dignity is addressed from the moment you look at this project to the moment someone's living in this project and you're visiting someone in this project. I'm going to speak to our Village Park brand. These are some images of our Village Park communities. And you're going to see that we have varying styles. You know, there's two communities addressed here in these images. These two communities are only 3 miles apart, but they are designed specifically for those neighborhoods, even though they're only 3 miles apart, they're different. For example, one community here that I'm demonstrating, and if you can see my cursor, this one right here is a modern farmhouse design. And this modern farmhouse is located next to an equestrian center. It's very nice, very elegant. These are some of the images you're seeing at the top of it. The top left is a bistro cafe in there. This top right is one of the lounges outside the spa area. And then you have another one down here. This is, again, 3 miles apart. This is more of our Southern Village type community. And you'll see this is inside the pool spa area as well, but completely different. And, you know, it's nice that the community has embraced, you know, we built what both communities wanted, and it was interesting and fun to see that it was different, even though it was, they're only 3 miles apart. The next brand that I'm going to show you is the Corso brand. One thing I'm going to demonstrate here, you're going to see, if you look at the two at the bottom, let's start there. The one on the left is the Corso Atlanta model. This is in a section of town. Again, these two projects are around 8 miles apart, but totally different neighborhoods. The one to the left is in more the Buckhead area. The typical design, and that is more of a French design. If you look to the right, this is in the Emory. This is a partnership we're doing with the Emory University on a 30-acre campus with Emory. In this particular project, it has a little more of an eclectic community, and you see the scale of it is a little different. So in that particular community, there's a lot of different styles, and this incorporates a lot of those different styles that are in that community. So we've presented both of these projects to both communities. It took us a while to get to those designs. We didn't start with those designs, but we ended up with these after a lot of collaboration. You'll see up here as you go through these projects, for example, one of the images you see right here in the middle on the left that's an art piece in the community. And so we represent art within we have art that represents the community. This particular art represents the Chattahoochee River. And there's a great story behind it. So a lot of people actually they're treating the community almost like a museum in a way. I know that's not probably DC, but you see now we have a nice, this is a nice dining area. And you'll see, and what I wanted to show, what is important to see here is that the top one is a rendering that we did when we went through the entitlement process. The bottom one is the photo of the product. And what I want to make very clear here is we are going to do 3D imaging drawings, and we're going to do models. And what we draw, we are going to build. And it's really important for you to know this and see this, because when you put your idea out there, know that it's going to get built. And when you walk past it, you're going to be able to say, hey, that was my idea, and there it is. So we look forward to those moments. So that is our Corso brand. I just want to, come back to this point that we're looking forward to working with everyone here. And I know you're going to have questions, and I know you're going to want to know exactly what we're building. I want to stress, we know we're going to build a really nice senior living community for you. We don't know exactly what the makeup of that's going to be. This is the beginning of the process. This is the beginning of us all getting to know each other. And it's the beginning of a lot of meetings. So we're going to get to know each other very well through this process. And it's just going to take a lot of patience on both sides to get there. But we look forward to your questions, and I'm happy to answer as many questions as I can tonight, and look forward to the great partnership.
Tim, thank you very much for that presentation. Appreciate it. First of all, let me just ask, will that presentation be available to us?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay, be good for everyone who wants to look at it to be able to see it. With that, I will turn it over to, thank you very much. Turn it over to Todd. I understand is taking in some questions. And Todd, please go ahead. And I encourage anybody else who hasn't yet typed in a question, please do so. And Todd will field it and then ask it back to the developers.
Thanks, Barney. I'll start with a few questions. Will your senior living community provide a full continuum of care, including nursing home and end-of-life services?
So we do not provide nursing home care. In today's environment, the rules of the government has started leaning more and more toward home health care and the reimbursement in the home health care industry. So we partner with home health care and hospice care. So 99.9% of everyone that moves in the community can have end-of-life care in our community.
How did your two companies get together, and have you worked together before?
So I'll tell you, it's actually, we've been working together for over 2 years now, because when I went to the DC market, and I've looked around the country as like, which area do I really want to be in? And this community is, the DC market is a market I wanted to be in. And after searching into the market, I was introduced to Grant and Lynn. And, 2 years ago, we went around looking at different locations and trying to find a site, but we are very picky developers, I'll say, and very patient developers. And so over time, there was, Lynn called me one day and said, hey, Tim, I think we have the perfect site. And look, it wasn't a question. When I saw it, I was like, yes, this is what we work. This is what we look for. So we've enjoyed this partnership for over 2 years, and currently we're working together on this development.
Can you speak to how climate and environmental considerations are built into your developments, and have you determined if you will reuse the existing buildings yet?
We have not determined anything about the property as far as the buildings go. We are doing our current due diligence on the buildings right now to understand any kind of environmental issues that may be on the site. But so far everything looks really good with the property. And then as far as our community, we do design to a lot of the standards that you would see. Any current, now I can't really speak, I'm not an expert on all of the green energy efforts, but we do design to those.
Are you aiming for luxury, super luxury, more affordable? What kind of mix of housing types and costs are you looking at?
So we're going to look at everything. We don't know the price range. We do know that there will be some components in this community to support the whole community. So, the assessment here is to really go out and understand how much of the entire community, what the community is what's the makeup of the community, and what is the community looking to support. We don't have, that's a really big range right now. And then that range dictates a lot of the design as we go through the process. So it's one of the first questions that we'll be asking the overall community to address.
Can you share information about height limits for buildings? How many stories you're looking at, or maximum stories you're looking at for these buildings?
No, because we found that in previous meetings with communities, that changes over time depending on what the community wants. And sometimes what we start with is, the community says they want one thing, and then over time their thought processes come together as a group. Sometimes there's a middle ground within the community for what they want. So we don't have a specific height that we're looking for. We don't have a specific number of stories we're looking for.
Question about access by town residents to any amenities on your development site. Any movie theaters, concerts, other types of amenities you might have on the site that residents might be able to take advantage of?
So I can speak to some of the projects that we currently have. We currently have projects where the local community supported a florist shop. They've supported a coffee shop. They're walkable. The community can walk to it. I do have at the Emory project, there's a park that the community wanted us to collaborate on. There's a home there. There's a historical home that we're turned into a clubhouse. So we do have different things that we work with the community on. Every project is unique. So as we talk through amenities that the community likes and wants, I will say this about senior living, and this is something I want the whole community to think about as you go back and start thinking about what kind of community do I really want. I don't want you to think of it as just seniors. I want you to think of it as an intergenerational community. This is a place where grandkids could come get an ice cream, or this is a place that my daughter could come get a coffee and meet me for coffee in the morning when she's on a walk or something like that. So I want you to think, to start thinking in those directions, because the more of that intergenerational support we have within the community, the healthier environment we create as a senior living community.
You've spoken to reuse. 100% of the project is senior living and no other uses?
Yes, we will be senior living.
And range of densities of units, I think you've addressed. How many buildings, how many seniors, independent versus assisted living, I believe you've addressed.
Yeah, we'll have a mix of independent living, assisted living, and memory care. I will say that on the independent side, there'll be really 3 different ranges of independence. Typically we look at, more of a street facing unit versus a dwelling unit within a building. So we have larger to smaller independent living units. And this is really because everybody has a different need. So we provide different unit types and square footages and sizes, and we'll offer some options for to kind of kickstart the thought process as we get going. But what we want to do is be able to address the needs of a couple, because one couple may want something different than one spouse may need something different than the other spouse. And so it's making sure that we have different options. And, you want to be flexible, and you want to have different types of, as a couple, you may live in an independent unit, but if one moves into memory care, the other one may want to move into a different type of unit at the same time. So we offer quite a broad range. We do not, we have a lot of different unit types to pick from.
Great, thanks.
Todd, if I could interrupt for 1 second here. We've been texting. I take it there are now already over 70 questions that have come into Todd.
There are.
Which is, and I've lost track, but I think we have almost 200 residents listening. So you have no doubt about the keen interest of town of Chevy Chase in this project. I think we'll continue to cover the questions we can. But what I might suggest, if my colleagues concur, is that since we have the listing of those questions, that afterwards we may collate them and send them to you and get responses back from you, so that even if a given resident's question cannot be asked in the time frame we have this evening, that we can nonetheless make sure that we do get back to them in due course.
Yes, and we'll be happy to answer the ones we can't answer tonight. And I'll try to be brief and answer them pretty quickly. Also, we know that we're going to have a lot of these meetings, and there's going to be a lot more of these type of Zoom meetings. So it's going to take quite a few to get through it all and for us to understand.
Right. Well, before I turn it back to Todd, one other question I do want to make sure you do say something about is your timeline for what you see as the next steps in going forward, and just if you have some view about the total time you think it's going to take to get your entitlements and eventually start construction.
Sure, I'll try and tackle that one. So as you know, we are under contract to purchase the property, and that process is going to take us through the end of the year. So that is a process that it gets us to be ownership and move forward. During that time, we still like to have these types of information sessions and get to know everybody so that we can hit the ground running. It will take several years to go through the entitlement process. I think a lot of that depends on, how well we work together and how open our dialogue is. But I think it will take anywhere between 2 to 3 years in order to get to that process. Construction wouldn't start until about 3 years from now. So that's generally the process. And as Tim mentioned, we don't really have a design or a plan yet. And once we come up with that together, that'll really tell us what sort of process we use in order to get to that end. So that may dictate how much time there is, or how much time there isn't in that process, depending upon the plan.
Got it. I understand. Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Todd, I'll turn it back to you to let residents put more of their questions in.
Thanks, Barney. How green will the project be? Will it be LEED certified?
I will tell you, my previous projects were designed to LEED certification. I didn't go through the paperwork process of it, but that is a strong possibility. I could see that being this being a LEED certified project.
Let's see. How do you anticipate integrating the community and the town structurally?
Into the town structure?
Perhaps just incorporating or integrating the senior community into the town.
Yes. So this is going to start with more collaboration on, the services that the town would potentially like to share versus the services that would stay within the confines of the project itself. It will look and feel like Chevy Chase, and it will be super representative of Chevy Chase as far as the structure. A lot of this comes down to operations. When you talk about how does it function with the city, we do a lot of outreach with the schools, We'll do a lot of outreach with other organizations in the community, and they'll use our, maybe even some of our facilities. In currently, for example, in one of our Alpharetta projects, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, every Boy Scout, Girl Scout, every club possible is performing dance routines, recitals. Those are the ways that the families are integrating. We provide the theater space for them to do their recitals in front of their grandparents, the piano recitals. And that's how we get involved with the local community, and that's how, because it's your community.
Thanks for that answer. Do you anticipate having a pool in the community?
Typically, we do have a pool.
Tree preservation and construction impact reduction. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, well, we have the experts here on the phone that will deal with, will handle that whole process. But I mean, we will go through your process for that.
How does this compare to your other projects with respect to size? And how many residents do you anticipate?
So I don't have a number of residents because we don't know the exact size of the project, but I will say that, this is a 12-acre project. And when you get to your, when we determine what the usable acreage is, it is smaller than the 12 acres. The current Corso project we're doing is a 9-acre project. The Emory project is a 30-acre project with 20 acres usable. The two projects that are in the Alpharetta market are 9 and 13 acres. So this is right in the middle, size-wise.
Thanks. Are these rentals or are they purchased units?
These are all rentals.
What's the anticipated green space allocation versus developed property?
That'll be a development. That'll be part of the process. I wish I had the exact answer to that, but that will be part, that's one of those questions that's going to require some patience because it's going to be a process, and we'll get through it. We will, and but I will give you this. Our residents want more green space than anybody else in the community wants. So everybody, it's a very important thing to our residents, and we know that.
Can you speak to connectivity to existing town streets, access, ingress, egress points to the development?
Yeah, we have the town survey that was conducted had some information about that, but we haven't made any decisions or really even studied it in detail yet. So that will have to come in the months to come.
Thanks. Barney, this question's for you. Someone asked, I can take it if you don't want to, but if you want to take it, someone asked to explain entitlements.
Go ahead and take the first crack at it.
Entitlement.
I assume this will be, and actually I'd like Tim to comment. I presume this will be a conditional use process as distinct from that's pretty much what you'd have to go through, but it'd be good if you could, and then they could comment on that question.
Well, Tim, I'll let you explain it if you just want to explain entitlements. Why don't you take the whole thing?
Well, I'm going to lean on my professional team to explain the entitlements at Chevy Chase.
So we an entitlement process is when you work with the community and the town and the county to make a collaborative design that is, and the goal of it is to make it a win-win for everybody. And so that process is, there is a outlined process in the county, or several different processes in the county that allow you to get from point A to point Z. We don't know which process we would take at this point, just because we don't know what the potential design is yet. But that process is a series of steps going from kind of 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, and understanding how the project works in the environment that it is. So imagine it as a process to take some baby steps in the design, which ultimately comes to a building permit that allows for the construction of the project. It's the simplest version I think I could come up with.
May have been addressed, but when does your due diligence period expire and when do you expect to close?
We expect to close in 1st of December.
Is there a minimum age to live in these in the community you're developing?
Yes, 55.
Can you speak to the densities of your other projects and how they might compare to this one, or what the densities of other projects that you've done?
We customize each project to the community, so it's such a broad range. It doesn't really, it wouldn't be doing it any justice to try to compare it from one project to the other. And so in senior living, the benefits in senior living, and when you're developing a senior living community, it's about the services you're providing. We are a service business. We are a healthcare business. We are not a real estate business like you would think of in a multifamily or single family format, where it's strictly based off of the real estate. It's more about the services that we provide in the community. So, density has an impact, but it's at what level of, at what cost or service and what cost do the services come is based on the type of project we build. So I want everyone to really think about that as well as we're going through the process, is that we're a healthcare provider and we're a service-oriented business.
Can you speak to stormwater management?
We will have to comply with the guidelines of stormwater management, as our civil engineer is shaking his head. We'll have to comply with it. We just don't know at this time.
It looks like a lot of these questions are similar. I've worked through over 100 of them, and I think I've touched on most of them. And someone asked, did I hear correctly that it will be all rental, not condo?
Correct, it'll be rental.
And will the property provide health and senior living services just to the residents of the community, or will it provide healthcare related services to the broader public?
So we do provide some home care. But mainly everything we do is there on campus. And so there are people who could come from within the community and maybe visit that. Maybe they have just a membership to the community where they could come in and receive some health services there. I have a community currently where we have a club membership, so that like if you're a senior and you wanted to come in and you wanted to use our healthcare services or our spa services, you could do that as a senior that live there in the community.
Will there be a retail component to your development open to the public, or just the residents of the senior living facility? It's open for discussion. We look forward to talking to you about it. I've seen it work really well. So, I'm hoping there is, but we look forward to talking to you about it, and we'll see what everyone agrees on. Can you speak to the number of parking spaces you'll assign to each unit?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number of parking spaces, and that's all related to the number of units, but I will tell you, just my first glance at this, there's most likely going to be underground parking, which will be under which would be under some structures.
I assume you don't expect your development to affect school districting.
No.
What has worked really well in your other developments that you would replicate on this site?
That's a good question, because I've seen it work really well. I've seen different things work really well in different communities. But one of the things we like to do in every community is we like to put in what we call a theater, but it's really, it becomes an event space, and it works really well to bring in, like I said earlier, the children to do events and to perform in front of grandparents, and to have an audience to perform and to learn to perform in front of. that has worked really well in a lot of communities, and it's been a great space for the schools and the theater groups within school districts to use. I have, in the most recent project, seen coffee shops working, and I've seen floor shops working really well. You know, those are they're spaces that, you know, everybody enjoys. And it helps bring in the intergenerational component. Also having, from an operational standpoint, working with some of the local schools, whether it's community colleges or some of the schools, high schools, and, you know, kids learning to work, just, you know, or getting mentorships. That's a really important thing. It helps the children as much as it helps the residents. So I think a lot of the programming is what I'm seeing as the leading benefits of a community. And that programming starts with our operations team working with you know, the economic development groups within the community and supporting other local businesses.
I'd like to actually also answer that one from a more procedural perspective. You know, a successful project is really about balance, and it's about the open dialogue about everybody that's here. But it's also about everyone understanding that, you know, this is not a zero-sum game. This is hopefully making the pie bigger so that everybody gets something, but not everybody gets everything. And if we all take that approach, we can really make something that's special that we're all going to be proud of. And so I think in our past projects that the most successful ones have taken that approach. And, you know, that's what I think we need to look forward to here.
Again, you may have answered this question already. When do you think you'll have a preliminary plan for input by the community?
We just don't know. We don't know yet. It will be I think there's going to be more dialogue before there's a plan, and that will take several months at a minimum.
The one reason we don't want to go to a plan is because we don't want to, personally, I don't want to lock in my brain yet. I want my brain to be open. I want it to listen. I want to hear. And we will have meetings with you, and several meetings with you, and we'll start tailoring these meetings to addressing specific things about the property, because there's no way to chew and try to eat this whole thing at one time. We need to tackle them in pieces. And so our goal right now is not just to introduce ourselves, but after this meeting is to start meeting with your leadership in the town and start scheduling out when those meetings happen. And then after the first meeting, we will start developing ideas about what the second and third and fourth meeting should look like and what those topics should be. And as we get through those topics, not only are, you know, you're going to see the project come alive before and you're going to start imagining what that project is, and you're going to be more accurate than you realize about what this community is going to be before we even show you a document, because we're going to have so many conversations about it that it's going to evolve. It's going to create its own. It's going to create itself.
I think the last question I have is, are you aware of the Thornapple Street setback covenant?
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions I have.
That's very, very timely. Let me just quickly ask if any of my colleagues on the council have a question before we have just a few more minutes.
Thank you for the presentation tonight, for sharing and for coming to us. And I just want to reiterate as well that we've got a strong committee of town residents on 4-H special committees, what it's called, who are experts. And we'd like to ensure that we're able to meet with you, with the town staff, and with residents in a pretty robust and consistent way. So we're looking forward to it. And I just want to make sure that that you heard from me on that point, as well as I serve as the liaison to that committee. There's a lot of interest in getting into the details. So thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Joel, and look, that's going to be a very, very important committee, and we're going to spend a lot of time with you. And truthfully, I can't wait to get face to face and meet with you, because there's something about that dialogue that will help move this and help us to also not only have a good meeting, but then set up for some follow-up meetings that will be very productive. Because in every one of these meetings, everybody's going to go away with homework, so we look forward to it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joel. Anybody else? Okay, well, we have gotten to just about the end of the hour. It's been a very useful introductory session. Thank you, Tim, for your presentation and addressing all those questions the best you could at the moment. I think what we certainly take on board is that this will truly be a collaborative process, but also one that's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of time. I think you've impressed us with the truth of that. I'm actually pleased that you've been so realistic about that, because we're more accustomed to hearing people be a little bit blithe about how quickly things can get done. And it's good to have people start off being very realistic about the timeframes that are required. So that's good to hear. So we'll certainly be in touch soon and begin to work out the ways and means for us to continue our dialogue. And I think that's probably the next step for us to take, is to work that out and to begin to kick off some of these sessions and try to begin to make some progress even before the end of this year. But this is a very helpful first introduction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barney. And we definitely look forward to meeting hopefully a couple of times before the end of the year and being very productive.
Terrific. Good. Okay. Thank you all very much.